Shooting a time-lapse series at the Leica Q2 is very simple. It's basically a built-in intervalometer which takes shots in predefined sequences. The way I've set this up here, so this is supposed to be a time-lapse of cloud movements. I have set this to an ISO of 100. We still have sufficient daylight. I close the aperture down to f4. I'm in manual focus and focus at infinity, which is just right for pictures of the sky. And my shutter speed, I let the camera figure out, so I'm in shutter speed automatic because we have sufficient daylight and the camera can do that work by itself. Now, in order to set up a time lapse, you go to the menu. In the menu, you have drive mode. If this is not in your favorites page here, you just go down to the main menu entry, and then it's the first entry thereafter. So very simple. If you're in drive mode, you have all these options for shooting. You go down to the second last to interval, and then you can specify the number of frames or the number of shots to be taken. I've set this to 480 because if I later want to compile a time-lapse video at 24 frames a second, this gives me a 20-second video. So I choose this. The second entry is the time between shots, and I've set this to 10 seconds because clouds are typically quite slow. We'll later see in the result if that was a wise choice or not. So you set this to 10 seconds here. You can go down all the way to 1 second or to 0 seconds, which is exceptional. On most cameras that's not possible, but we keep it here at 10 seconds. And then you have a countdown, and the countdown is self-explanatory. It is a self-timer, and 5 seconds in the countdown tells the camera that the sequence to be taken should start after a 5-second delay. Then you go to your shutter release, everything is prepared, you push the shutter down and the sequence starts. I had not the patience to wait for 480 shots for that little demonstration. So I interrupted this before, and I just want to give you my tip number 1 now, and that's in-camera processing of 1080p videos. Normally, if you want to have the best possible resolution, the best possible quality in a time-lapse, you would actually take the full resolution shots, probably even in RAW, import it into Lightroom or Capture One, process the images, make them nicer, and then compile them with some software to actually get a 4K video or something like that. You could also do 5K or 8K. Based on the resolution, you have a lot of options. Now, for many purposes, a 1080p video will do the trick, especially if you want to share on social media. Full HD is the resolution which will be the best balance between memory required and streaming speed and quality of the video. And a nice feature which I accidentally discovered at the Leica Q2 is that the camera can process 1080p videos in camera. How is this done? Let's first of all check. So if we go into play, we see here the sequence of clouds. Let's say we would have taken 480 shots if we would not have been too impatient and broke up before. So we have those shots all here, and it's very tedious if you want to check on a sequence to scroll through 480 frames. That's not what you want to do. Your finger will probably die before you are at the very end. And that's why you can process the sequence of images into a 1080p video in camera. And I'm going to show you how that works. So you go into the menu, and then in the menu you go down to main menu, and then on main menu you go to page number 4. And that's the one where you want to be, and you go all the way down to play mode setup. And on play mode setup there is one menu entry which is group display mode. This is currently off. That's why when I went into play mode and scrolled through the frames, you saw each and every frame individually. Now if you group them, the camera knows exactly in sequence shooting what was the first frame and what was the last frame of a group. And it's storing that information. So if you go into group display mode and then go back into play, you see that now all of a sudden you don't see the frames, but you see play, and the camera process this into a video for you with 1080p resolution. So let's go on play. Let's play this. You see the clouds moving. This is the time lapse we wanted. And now if you stop this, you see on the, let me push the button again, you see on the upper left hand side corner a symbol. And that symbol is the video processing button. If you push that, it asks you, create time 5 minutes. Do you want to proceed and create a video? So it will take about 5 minutes. I go on yes, and we just let the camera work, but it will not take 5 minutes, so it's overestimating the time. You see the progress is quickly going forward. You can also abort this if you don't like it, but now the camera is compiling all the frames you have shot, let's say it's 480 frames, into a 20-second video with a resolution of 1080p. And that's basically what I wanted to show. I'm going to import this later on my MacBook, and then we see the result. And we will see that the image quality, at least for social media, is just good enough. Here is my tip number 2. From time to time, especially if you have short intervals between the shots taken, the Leica Q2 shows you some warning which says that frames have been dropped. And that typically occurs if the buffer you have in the memory or your SD card is not quick enough. If you store those pictures and the interval for storing it is not long enough, then it drops a frame. And the way to get over it is to go into the menu, go to File Format, and since you are shooting a time lapse, deactivate the RAW format. So do not shoot in DNG and JPEG, just shoot JPEG. Tip number 3 is pretty simple. If your intervals between shots get very short, if your SD card is not quick enough, if you already switched off the RAW format as in tip number 2, so no more DNG, just JPEG, then you already saved some time in storing the images, you need less buffer. But if this still not is enough, then go to the resolution. And for 1080p videos, it's absolutely sufficient to actually have a smaller resolution. So you go to the menu, you go to the main menu, you go to the JPEG resolution, and you switch this from large, which is 47 megapixels per frame, if you don't apply a crop, to 24 megapixels on medium resolution, and then your files will be much smaller and the camera can much better handle this even with an SD card which is not super quick.